Okay, guys. So it's probably the worst slot that any presenter can get just before the lunchtime. So I will do my best to keep it very simple. I know you are tired. You heard a lot of sessions today and information and things you will want to try in your office. So my presentation today is 5 ways to accelerate your DevOps cycle. And I would like to start with a story of how I wrote a blog about this topic, and the blog went to a presentation. So my story starts with one of our pre-sales calling me the other day and telling me I have a huge deal with one of the largest customers that we have in the company. They want to change many things in their development cycle, and they would like to come to Israel, to our office, and hear about the things that we can improve, and how we can improve the DevOps and the performance and testing, the entire development cycle from the coding to the deployment. And I said, it's a great idea. Let's bring them, have a few sessions, share our stories, share our product, and let's see how we can do a big sale. So they, a few weeks later, they arrived to our office, a really nice and large amount of managers from this company. And we started doing sessions, and they explained how they are working today and how they see themselves in a year from now. And we show them all our fancy tools and all the stories and how we can bring them to this area. And they were very satisfied, and they got their checkbook and start writing the numbers that we hope for. And they brought many of our products. And the wishful thinking was, since it was a kind of an e-commerce company, that eventually the goal is the Black Friday, the Holy Glory, and they want to have the best performance and to get the peak they need just in the Black Friday. So Black Friday arrived, and I called this guy. One of the managers was a really nice guy, and we had a few chats, a few talks with him. And I suggested my help because I have a lot of experience in those areas. And he said, no, everything is cool. The IT just implemented on and installed all your softwares, and we understand everything, and we brought consulting to have transformed from waterfall to agile, and everything is great. And I said, okay, if everything is great, then good. A day after the Black Friday, they crashed. I saw in the newspaper that they didn't make it. Their application and website and all the other things that they are selling most of the time was offline. They didn't make it. I guess they missed a few deadlines, and bottom line, having all the pieces doesn't make the perfect picture. And on those mistakes and other mistakes that I saw during my career, we will talk in my session. So my name is Israel Orgoza, and I am first Adi's husband and Omri's father. I am a product manager in Incredible. Incredible is the market leader in software development acceleration. We have more than 100,000 users in 2,500 enterprise customers using Incredible on a daily basis, accelerating their heavy, big compute workloads. We have a booth just outside, so you are more than welcome to hear more and to see if we can accelerate your development cycle. So after I saw that they crashed and the guy and the salesman called me and said, there is a danger that we will lose this customer since he brought many things with a lot of money, but eventually they didn't make it. So we call this our champion in this company and ask for our assistant to help them to recover, to see how we can achieve the goals that they mentioned almost a year ago. And during this session, we agreed that we will have several sessions with our expertise, their R&D, IT, DevOps, the entire development cycle, to see how we can avoid from losing this huge and big customer. So we saw the first thing that they mentioned when they arrived here, that they want to get rid of old practices and move on to the new age. They were kind of a legacy company with old and bad habits. And the first thing they mentioned, the first goal is to do the shift. And everyone is talking about the shift right and the shift left, and test more and test as soon as you can. And they did a lot of talking around this area, but bottom line, they didn't do anything. They worked in what I like to call fragile, which is a combination of agile and waterfall, which 100% of the time don't work. And what you need to do to make the shift, for example, and things they didn't do, is since most of their application is around performance and they have to respond very quickly, instead of integrating the performance, for example, or all the testing, they did it only at the end of each feature. And basically, one of the things that this caused is integration hell. Since only on the last day in the sprint plan, they did all the testing. And this brings to many different mistakes. And this brings to a very, very, very slow CI/CD cycle. Everything is coming and becoming more and more slowly because they find more defects. Suddenly, one day before the sprint is planned to be done, they're running huge tests, which takes a lot of time. And everybody starting to get panic. The release automation is not making it. The QA is scared that they will find defects. The developer is scared that his code doesn't just working right. So one of the things that James and Shane in the Art of Agile Development, really fascinating research, they found that integration builds is one of the highest bottlenecks that any software development is bumping in. Another thing that they mention here when they visit us, and other companies that are visiting us, is they want to go to the different best practices. And we asked them, did you change something? And this company was split into a few QA departments and R&D, and each R&D group had its own QA, but eventually it was one product. And each one of those teams worked differently. Meaning that, for example, there was one team that I remember that the developer just write a feature, did a few testing just to make sure that everything is working, nothing to say about unit testing or any kind of automation testing, and just change in the ALM the status of the feature to in testing, and that's it. And this affect crucially in their development cycle, since they work back and forth. They were not testing available. And since you can handle this way, one feature, 3 features, 5 features, I don't know, maybe 10 features. But if you have 15 or 20 or 30 features in this version, eventually you will have leftovers, and each sprint you are adding more and more leftovers. of features that are going back and forth between the QA and the development cycle. So the best way that we recommended back then is to have integrated automation that is shared between all the QA and the development groups. This way they can avoid a lot of mistakes during the development cycle and not bumping into those issues very late during the release. But they were afraid to try something new. Maybe the manager said, yeah, we can try something new. But bottom line, when they want to convert this to other colleagues, to lower managers, they had issues and problems. And eventually they gave up. So they brought the shiny new tools. They had a lot of meetings and off-site meetings. And everyone in the C-level managers was happy and communicating that they are trying something new. But eventually they did the same old thing. Too much focus on tools. I mentioned again that they pop up the checkbooks and starting writing checks. And one of the things that they were very excited that they are spending a lot of money since they are buying many shiny new tools, and this will help them eventually make the next step to deliver in quality, in better quality, bottom line. So they brought the new tools and they got these fancy emails with action items to all the guys, to the IT, to security, to everyone that we are going to implement new tools and come and learn about new tools. But they didn't guide the end users. They didn't ask the end users what they would like to see, what they need. They just brought tools because I guess we were very convincing, so they bought it. But instead of doing the opposite, instead of asking their guys, what you need, where is the bottlenecks, where is the problems, what do we need, they just brought whatever they can. So this was one of the issues. And you need to make sure that once you are buying, once you take a consulting company and they have some really new fancy presentations and they are talking very smoothly and they promise a lot of things, you need to make sure that bottom line, your guys understand what is the target, your guys understand what is the main goal, and hear their voice to see if things are really what they need. This is one of my favorites. This is a quote. I don't have time to save time. So this is another customer with the same common ground that failed to deliver quality, that missed his deadlines, that his time to market was something that they couldn't pin because the build time and the entire infrastructure was too long. Making the environment and running the compilation and deployment and everything took almost 4 hours. So they couldn't run it more than 3 times a day. So this is a huge bottleneck. And eventually this caused them to miss the deadlines and to miss the time to market. And now the development guy needs to come to his team leader, and the whole chain comes to the up to the CEO that guys, we missed the deadline. And we suggested to accelerate one of the blocks. It could be compilation, it could be the builds, it could be the testing. But once you start accelerate one of these blocks, then all the other stuff can reduce the time, or you're just reducing one of the blocks from hours to minutes, and then you can get more efficient. So I don't have time to save time. It's just an excuse. Instead of searching and finding what causing the build to take 4 hours, they invest most of their time making sure that this was only 4 hours and not 5 hours. So if you run more, you pay less. If the compilation takes not more than a few minutes, maybe an hour, you can run more. And by run more, meaning that your product is getting much more quality. You can integrate more tests, code coverage, and many more things that you can add to make sure that your product is gaining the best performance. So you pay less on missing the deadlines. You are losing less money. You can get a better product. Script Monster is another issue that this customer faced. They had an automation with many manual steps. You need to make sure that this environment is ready by running and clicking on this button. You need to install those drivers. You need to bring this database. Everything was almost manually. So there was a genius developer over there that wrote his own script. And he saw one day that his script is running very well. So he added more and more code to this script, automating all those things. And since his managers didn't improve this script, he did it by himself. And he maintained this script by himself. And this script worked for a few years because this developer was really happy with his job. The hours was great. But he's the only one who understands what is written inside this script. And every time and I met this developer, a really nice guy, genius, and I asked him why you didn't recommend doing this more officially. You wrote something that is very cool, and when it works extremely well. But why not adding this to all different QA or DevOps and share this information, share this script? And his answer was simply because my boss didn't allow me. He loved the manual steps. The whole culture was around not adding new stuff. So he maintained this code. So instead of losing this script, or when it broke, it really broke, one of the things they did eventually is take this genius and make him a source code. Because not every genius can be a team leader, but he can be a source for many knowledge. So this is very crucial to adopt new stuff, to adopt and change old behaviors. I really love this quote of Abraham Maslow, that if the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. You need to share, you need to ask, you need to make sure that everything you do is integrated, is what your organization needs. And not only because you read a really cool blog, and not only because someone from the managers heard about, or they have a friend or a colleague, and you just bought the new shiny tool, or it's a cool open source that you want to implement, but eventually it will make more harm than make things more efficient. So just to recap the things, so we mentioned that do the shift. If you really want to do the shift, do it, all in. Don't say that you are going to do the shift, but eventually walk the same old habits. Innovation. Don't be afraid to try something new. It could be new software, it could be new plugin, it could be a new open source, but don't be afraid also to change old best practice to something new. Too much focus on tools. You can do the innovation, but make the wrong turn and buy and adopt new things that won't help. I don't have time to save time. If things are not working, if things takes a lot of time, stop. check where is the problem, see how we can fix it instead of hoping that this issue will disappear, or hoping that eventually time will reduce. And last, of course, don't be afraid to take those genius guys and ask them what they did. I found it very crucial. I saw that many times. Many genius guys, or it could be just a junior that just went from the university, that is trying something new that he wrote, and it's extremely efficient. But since he's a junior, since it's a new guy, they don't listen to him. So stop sometimes and hear what they have to say, and don't be afraid to take this. So as I mentioned, this is probably the worst slot, and I can guarantee that there is food outside. I would like to thank you for being and hearing what I have to say, and בתיאבון.